So this was happened to one of my friends, which of course we'll call her by the name of Josephine. Josephine was a very religious type of person, and she was related into Christianity. She had been a Christian ever since her whole entire life with her parents, and of course they were religious, to say the least. Josephine wasn't really big on the whole religion thing, but she was still part of the religion regardless. However, she was invited to a sleepover by one of her best friends, which of course her name was Maggie. Maggie was having a sleepover since both of her parents were going out for the evening and wouldn't be back till late at night. However, that's when Maggie decided to invite Josephine over to spend a night. It wasn't on a school night, so they didn't have to get up and ready for school the next day. This was around 2017, so Josephine decided that she would go over and spend the night with Maggie. Maggie and Josephine had been friends since the beginning of high school, and they had gotten along very well. Josephine and Maggie were in the living room when they were going to play a board game since it was pretty rainy outside on that day. It was around mid-May, so it was really rainy one day, so they were inside. However, that's when Josephine pulls out something that she never seen before in Maggie's house. "What is this?" she asked her. "Oh, that's an Ouija board. My dad's had it for at least a few years. Never really had a use for it, but he thought maybe that may be something I could be into." Of course, there was a planchette on the Ouija board, and of course, Maggie decided that they should try it out. At first, Josephine wasn't so sure because of the believable Ouija board story bullcrap, but she decided to maybe give this a go, and if nothing happened, then it was probably a fake. That's when Josephine, along with Maggie, got the planchette, and they got set up, and they were beginning to put out some candles, and they did pretty much doing the ritual. They followed the steps very carefully, and this is what happened. They asked if somebody was in the room with them, and the planchette moved over to the word yes. Honestly, this really startled them as they never really expected that to happen. But that was when Josephine asked, "What spirit are you?" The planchette moved on to certain words and it said spirit. So whatever it was a spirit. Maggie asked, "Is it a friendly spirit?" The planchette moved over to the word no. So it was an evil spirit. At this point, Josephine was thinking that maybe this was just some coincidence or something, but wasn't really too sure as she never really believed anything in spiritual or anything like that. When they asked what is going on, and the planchette moved over to certain words, and it all relate to someone is going to get hurt. That was honestly really weird, and at first they thought that nothing really happened. Nothing happened to them, so they ended up deciding to put the Ouija board out, thinking maybe it was all too creepy and this was just some weird coincidence. However, it wasn't until the middle of the night when Maggie woke up and she looked over to see that Josephine was wide awake, but she ended up getting a cut across her arm. Now, Maggie asked Josephine how did that happen, and Josephine said she didn't know. Then they realized that that must have been what the Ouija board said, that someone was going to get hurt. They didn't find any weapons or anything that would have caused it, but Josephine bandaged the wound up with the help of Maggie. They didn't tell their parents about this, thinking that maybe they were just pretty much asking for a lecture on how they're not getting enough sleep. However, though, Josephine and Maggie never played with the Ouija board again. They still wonder to this day what would have happened to them them if they continued to play the Ouija board any further, but they kept wondering just who or what was in that room with them that night. It honestly makes them wonder what kind of spirits they were. Ouija boards were something that Josephine avoids, and she not plays with them anymore. She's not against people that are into that stuff, but it's just really something that she's not really into. Ever since that day, she doesn't even know what kind of spirit it was that made her have a scar on her arm. She still doesn't even know to this day of who or what it was, but she does not even want to know. So this took place back in 2015, and this happened to one of my friends, which of course we'll call her by the name of Morgan. Morgan liked a lot of scary and creepy stuff, and she'd been into that stuff ever since she was a kid. She used to watch horror movies with her dad, while her mom didn't really approve of the idea, but she really enjoyed horror movies of all kind. However, this story was definitely something that really put her on edge. To make a long story short, Morgan was upstairs in the attic. Yes, there were one of the houses that still have attics. She ended up looking over to see that there was a box. She opened the box to find that there wasn't a Ouija board with a planchette, so she thought maybe she could give this a go. She ended up deciding to light a candle, and she ended up doing the ritual. She then first asked the spirit, "Is someone there?" with the planchette moving to the word yes. Obviously, this really creeped her out, as she wasn't moving the planchette, it was moving by itself, which was freaky. And then she asked, what is there? And then the planchette moved over to certain letters forming the word demon. So whatever it was a demon. And at first Morgan was starting to laugh it off, thinking that maybe this might be some sort of sick joke. But this is when she gets even a little bit more freaked out. When she asked if it was a friendly demon, it moved to the word no. Now this really freaked her out, as she never really expected that to happen, but it was definitely something she never expected. She then asked if there was someone in the room, and then the word moved to yes. She ended up looking up to reveal that there was a black shadowy figure standing about maybe 4 or 5 feet away. Honestly, this made her feel scared, as she didn't even expect that person to be there. She tried to call out to the person, but it couldn't hear her, as it just stared at her frantically. However, she ended up asking, when will she die? And then the letters moves May 14th, 2024. Now she thought this was some coincidence, but she ended up destroying the planchette by ripping it apart and throwing it out. She didn't even know if this was some coincidence or not, but so far nothing has happened since, and she never ever touched a Ouija board again. She didn't even bother to bring this up to her parents, as they would give her a lecture on how is she not getting enough sleep and etc. So she decided not to tell anybody about this story. She has told a few friends about this, and some of their friends were shocked, while some just shrugged it off as maybe just some silly story. However, whatever it was definitely something that Morgan does not even want to experience again. So a group of friends from school, where I used to go in high school, we're pretty much at a sleepover. They decided to play with this little weird thing at someone's house, which was called a Ouija board. Now, Ouija board was something about connecting with spirits and stuff. At first they asked if someone was there, to which the planchette moved over to the word yes. They asked some really ridiculous questions until the planchette moved to letters, and it spelled out death will come to you. Honestly, what really happened is one of the friends of high school started choking on something, and as they were trying to get his friend to their friend to stop choking, he unfortunately died from suffocation. It was unclear as to who or what might have done this, but they burned the Ouija board as they had a feeling that it could have been the cause of that. They never explained this to anybody about the Ouija board, thinking that someone maybe just laugh it off and say that this is just some sort of silly joke, but they know what they saw. They never even played with the Ouija boards again ever since then, and they still wonder to this day, how was it possible for one of their friends to choke if they weren't eating something? That was a question they always wondered, and they kind of wondered what could have happened to them if they had played with the Ouija board. They still don't know what to think of to this day, and they still wonder about certain things when it came to Ouija boards. Since they didn't know much about Ouija boards, they pretty much made that as one of their stupid decisions they ever made. They only told a few friends and people about it, but other than that, they never really told their parents about it. However, it wasn't until maybe a few years later when they got together and the conversation about the Ouija board was brought back up. None of them ever wanted to remember that time where they lost one of their best friends. But they also wondered if the spirit, was it the spirit choking him if he wasn't eating something? That was a question they still have to this day. And even now, they still wonder if there was really a demon choking that one person.